This is lecture 3. In the last lecture, I discussed what is meant by a neutral object and what is meant by a charged object. So, in this lecture, I am going to discuss various methods by which you can charge a neutral object and convert it into a charged object. So coming to the topic, methods of charging. There are mainly 3 different methods of charging. You can make a neutral object into a charged object by doing any of these 3 methods. So the main methods are charging by friction, charging by induction, and charging by conduction. I will discuss one by one. So let us first discuss charging by friction. So the first method is charging by friction. You all know what is friction. When one material is moving over another material, then those materials will exert a force on the other material. This force is called a frictional force. So by this frictional force, you can charge a material. That is the first method, charging by friction. So how it is possible? Consider this diagram. You can see there are 2 materials. One is a silk cloth, which is yellow in color, and another is a glass rod, which is blue in color. Now initially both are neutral objects. That means silk cloth is neutral, glass rod is neutral. By saying neutral, it means if you consider silk cloth, it will have equal number of positive and negative charges. If you consider glass rod, it will have equal number of positive and negative charges. So both are neutral. Now your intention is to make these neutral objects into charged objects. So how it is possible? Method is very easy. Just take both the materials, glass rod and silk cloth, just rub them together. Just rub both the materials together. If you rub glass rod with this silk cloth for some time, then after that process, this glass rod will be charged with some charge, either positive or negative, and the opposite charge will be on the silk cloth. So initially both are neutral objects. Now glass rod is having some charge and the opposite charge will be there on the silk cloth. So you are actually converting a neutral object into a charged object by rubbing together. So this is called a charging by friction. Now how it is getting charged? Let us explain. So consider the glass rod. Initially just imagine that there are 5 positive charges and 5 negative charges in glass rod. And consider silk cloth. Initially there are 10 positive charges and 10 negative charges in silk cloth. Now both objects you can say that they are neutral because 5 positive charge and 5 negative charge. So glass rod is neutral. In silk cloth 10 positive charge and 10 negative charge. So it is neutral. Now you are rubbing glass rod with the silk cloth. You will take the glass rod and you will rub like this. When you do like this, what happens is there is a contact between glass rod and silk cloth. Due to this contact, some of the electrons will move from one material to the other material. There are 2 materials, so the material in which electrons are easily moved out from that material, electrons will move and it will reach to the other material. That depends upon the material. The material in which electrons are moving out, now there will be less number of electrons. So let us imagine that from glass rod, when you rub these 2 materials, then from glass rod some electrons are moving out. So initially 5 positive charges and 5 negative charges are there. Now when you are rubbing, let us imagine that 2 electrons are moving out. So 5 positive charges will be there again, but only 3 negative charges will be there because 2 negative charges are now moving out. those charges which are moving out, they will reach to this silk cloth. Initially silk cloth is having 10 positive charges and 10 negative charges. Now 2 more charges are coming. So now silk cloth is having 10 positive charge and 12 negative charges, because initially 10 negative charge, now 2 are again coming, so 10 plus 2, 12 negative charges will be there. So silk cloth is having extra negative charges, 2 extra negative charges. So silk cloth is said to be negatively charged, and glass rod is having more positive charges, 5 positive and 3 negative charge. So 2 extra positive charges are there. So glass rod is said to be positively charged. So this is how you can charge an object by friction. Same thing happens when you rub your hand with some silk cloth. When you rub your hand with a silk cloth, then from your hand to the silk cloth or from silk cloth to your hand, electrons will move. The material from which electrons are moved will become positively charged, and the material in which electrons are coming will become negatively charged. I hope it is clear. So here also conservation of charge is obeyed, because you can see initially 5 positive charge and 5 negative charge in glass rod, and 10 positive charge and 10 negative charge in glass rod, silk cloth. After rubbing also 5 positive charge and 10 positive charge, that means 5 plus 10, 15 positive charges are there. And here after rubbing 3 negative charge, and here 12 negative charge. 12 plus 3, 15 negative charges. Initially 15 positive and 15 negative, after rubbing also 15 positive and 15 negative. So conservation of charge is obeyed even if you are charging. So you are not creating any extra charge, you are simply transferring from one to other. This is called charging by friction. Next method is charging by induction. So I will explain the method of charging by induction. So listen here, I am going to explain charging by induction. So you can see you are having a material, a sphere you are having, which is a neutral sphere. Why it is neutral? If you count the number of positive charges and the number of negative charges in the sphere, you can see that there are 9 positive charges and 9 negative charges. So total number of positive charges is equal to total number of negative charges. That means it is a neutral sphere. So it is a neutral object. And now your intention is that you want to make this sphere a charged object. It is initially neutral object, you want to make it charged, either positively charged object or negatively charged object. So let us consider the case that you want to make it positively charged. So how to do it? I will explain. So for doing that, your intention is that you want to make it positively charged. Final stage you can see it is positively charged. So how to do this process? Listen here. For doing that, your intention is to make it positively charged. So bring another object which is having negative charge on it. So you are bringing a plastic rod near to the sphere. The charge on the plastic rod must be negative, because your intention is to make this sphere positively charged. So bring a negatively charged object near to your sphere. It can be any object. Instead of plastic rod, you can use some other materials, but the thing is that charge on that material must be negative. So if you bring it near to the sphere, you can consider the second diagram then. Now it is very near to the sphere. When it is very near, you can see that initially here in the first diagram, charges are distributed randomly. Positive and negative charges are distributed randomly. There is no fixed location. But when you bring this plastic rod which is negatively charged near to the sphere, you can see that now those charges are changing their orientation. Now positive charges are coming to one side and negative charges are going to another side. Since it is negatively charged, positive charges will come near to it and negative charges will move away from it, because negative charges will attract positive charges. So positive and negative will come together very close to each other, and negative will repel negative charges. So this and this, they will move far apart. So when you move it near to the sphere, you can see that the charges will rearrange in such a way that positive charges are here and negative charges are here. That is the second step. Now in the third step, you will connect a wire from ground to your sphere. This wire is a conducting wire. Conducting means through this charges can move and they will reach ground. Okay, so there are some charges in the sphere. If you connect a wire with the sphere, then what happens is there is extra amount of charges here, so that if you connect it, those charges will move through the wire and they will reach ground. Okay, so negative charges from this side will move and they will reach ground. After that, all the negative charges are moved, and after that only positive charges are there. So that you will, after this process, you will remove the wire. Now only positive charges are there. And what you are doing is, now you are taking this negatively charged rod away. If you take it away, then all the positive charges which are initially here, because this rod is very near, if you take this rod away, means these charges will not have that much of attractive force from this rod. So now these charges will move inside the total sphere and they will rearrange throughout the sphere. So you can see now sphere is in such a way that only positive charges are there, which is rearranged throughout the sphere. So now this sphere is said to be positively charged. So this is how you can make a neutral object into a positively charged object. Same case, if you want to make it a negatively charged object, you can do the same process, but instead of this negatively charged rod, you will bring a positively charged rod, and these steps will be same. Charges will just reverse. Finally you will get a negatively charged sphere. So this method is called a charging by induction. Here in this method, the main thing is that you are not making contact between this object and this object. Only thing is that this object is near to this object. They are not touching. In induction, objects which are in process will not touch each other. They are simply very near to each other. I hope it is clear. So this is the second method of charging. Now let us move on to the third method. The third method is charging by conduction. So I will explain how you can make an object charged by the method of conduction. So listen here. You can see here charging by contact. It is another name for conduction. Charging by conduction is also called as charging by contact. So what is this method? Consider a neutral object. This object is neutral, that is why there is a 0. 0 simply means it is a neutral object. Your intention is to make this neutral object a charged object. Here you can see you want to make it negatively charged object. Initially it is a neutral object. You want to make it negatively charged object. So how to do it? You want to make it negatively charged means, in charging by contact, there is a word contact, means they must have contact between the two objects. So in this method, you must bring the same charged object and make a contact with your object. So your intention is to make negatively charged object, and what you need to do is take a negatively charged rod or some other object and make a contact with your object, your neutral object. When you make a contact, it is initially neutral object, but it is a negatively charged object. Negatively charged object means there is more number of negative charges in this object. So when you make a contact with this one, what happens is that extra charges from this rod will move to this neutral object. So initially neutral object is having same number of positive charge and negative charge. Now some of the extra electrons is coming and reaching your object, neutral object. So number of electrons in your neutral object will increase, so that your object will now have more number of electrons, and hence it is called a negatively charged object. If you want to make it positively charged object, bring a positively charged object and make a contact with your neutral object. Then since it is positively charged object you are bringing, means there is deficiency of electrons in this object. So from your object some of the electrons will move to that object, because in the object you are bringing, since it is positive, means there is deficiency, some electrons it needs, that is meant by positively charged object. So when you make a contact from your object, some of the electrons will move to that object, hence number of electrons in your object will decrease, and hence it will have more positive charges. So your object is said to be positively charged object. So here there is a contact between your object and the object you are bringing, that is why it is called charging by contact or charging by conduction. Conduction is used because there is a contact, so because of the contact charges are moving, and this process is conduction. So charging by conduction or charging by contact. This is different from the first method, charging by rubbing, because in charging by contact there is only contact between your neutral object and the object you are bringing, you are not rubbing. But in charging by rubbing you are rubbing both the objects and making it charged. That is the difference between charging by contact and charging by friction. Here you are not rubbing, you are simply making a contact. In charging by rubbing, initially both the objects will be neutral objects, after rubbing both will get charged. In charging by contact your object is neutral, but the object you are bringing is not neutral, it is a charged object. So that is the difference between charging by contact and charging by rubbing. I hope it is clear. So these are the three methods by which you can charge an object. So any doubt you can freely ask.